Shavua Tov, a gute Woch. I would like to continue with telling stories of the Baal Shem Tov, which is a great segula, an old tradition from this book called the Shivchei haBaal Shem Tov, the praises of the Baal Shem Tov, which is the earliest or one of the earliest testimonies of stories of the Baal Shem Tov, compiled by his closest pupils and those who knew him in life, in person, or compiled directly from the sources of those who knew him, especially Rabbi Yaakov Yosef of Polonai, who was one of his closest students. And in this edition, this is story number 18. I have been telling stories about one of the professions that local Jews engaged in, which was tax collecting, or rent collecting, and this is a story about a Jewish tax collector or rent collector whose mazal, whose luck was turning for the worse. There was also continuing with the story from last week, there was also a tax collector that his mazal, his luck was turning for the worse, was not stable, and the Baal Shem Tov saw in him that the Malach HaMaves, the angel of death, is coming after him. There is also a story of the Baal Shem Tov. Lo aleinu, this shouldn't happen. The story of Malach HaMaves. Sorry about the topic. So I'm going to say a bracha. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei asei b'samim. It's a minhag to smell aromatic herbs, especially on Motzei Shabbos, not only as part of Havdalah, but in general. So the Baal Shem Tov sees that the Malach HaMaves is after this Jew, and he speaks to him some words of concern, musar, try to get him to realize, to change his ways and to do tshuva, and this may change his mazal for the best. The Baal Shem Tov was telling him not to focus so much on material matters, but to be more concerned about the tikkunim that he needed to do in his ways, in his behavior. The man misinterpreted the Baal Shem Tov's words as though the Baal Shem Tov is just giving him a few divrei Torah because he's going to ask him for a tzedakah and offer him some coins. The Baal Shem Tov did not accept. When the Baal Shem Tov finished talking to this man, he said to the people who were with him, "Oi, shoite, what a dumb person, that tomorrow he may die, and he's only concerned about his material luck." His brother-in-law's there is an expression, Giso Haramoreinu Garashonke, his brother-in-law, he reproached the Baal Shem Tov and said, "Why such words would come out of your mouth? You say something like that about a Bar Yisrael, a Jew." The Baal Shem Tov tells him, "Listen, why are you, in plural, you and all the others, so blind? This man has the Malach HaMaves, has the angel of death going after him." And the Baal Shem Tov went home. Then Rabbi Yaakov became an alman, a widower. Rabbi Yaakov is either a brother of the Baal Shem Tov's wife and of Rav Gershon, or is married to a sister of the Baal Shem Tov's wife, sister also to Rav Gershon. It's not clear according to this note because this is the only time he's mentioned. So this Rav Yaakov had become a widower, had to travel to some place for a shidduch. They were going to introduce him to a lady that would marry him. And he was going to go by the town or by the place where this Jewish tax collector lived. So he went to stay in a place to stay overnight near where the Jewish tax collector lived, and the tax collector hadn't come to his house, and he served him a meal. Rav Yaakov didn't want a fleshik meal, did not want to eat meat. So the tax collector prepared for him a dairy meal on a side of the table, and spoke to him superfluous things. During the night, the tax collector woke up with a great headache, and something was bothering him a lot. He asked if somebody could come and recite vidui with him, a confession of his sins, as somebody who is seeing that his days are over in this world and he wants to recite the vidui. The only one who was near was Rav Yaakov. So Rav Yaakov came and the man recited vidui in front of Rav Yaakov and answered the words that Rav Yaakov recited to him in the tune of a nigun, of a melody. And that's it. That's what Rav Yaakov did. Then the wife of the tax collector came, put the covers on him on bed, and told him to let him rest. Maybe he will feel better. She came to check on him a little later and found out that he was no longer alive. Rav Yaakov came back to his house, and he let everybody know that when the Baal Shem Tov said that we are blind, that we don't see, the Baal Shem Tov knows, meaning the Baal Shem Tov can actually see. He was correct. And so it was one of the moiftim, one of the things, marvelous things that the Baal Shem Tov could see. And once people understand the connection with the Rebbe, that he can see what we cannot see, we better listen. This has a tone of severe warning, but we should learn to listen. The Baal Shem Tov taught this. I'm going to read from the Tzavas Rivash, from the Baal Shem Tov so-called Last Will, a book or pamphlet that was published also shortly after the Baal Shem Tov passing, and it was printed in the early 19th century, or late 18th century, where they were compiling as the teachings of the Baal Shem Tov in short paragraphs. So one of the things that the Baal Shem Tov taught is that we should always be aware in whose presence we learn Torah, and when we should do so with intensity and great joy. And the more we enjoy and we are happy with our Torah and we think we're in front of Hashem, the less likely we are to be interrupted in our thoughts by foreign thoughts, by alien thoughts, by machshavos zaros, which lead to sin and to be distracted and bring the Yetzer Hara, the evil inclination. So the best thing, Baal Shem Tov said, not just to learn Torah, but to be into it, to be aware in front of Hashem, and then to experience the joy of learning Torah. And so is the teaching. Shavua Tov, a gute Woche.